Welcome back to CNN's breaking news coverage of President Trump's address. We just heard it to senior U.S. military officers at the Marine base at Quantico, Virginia.
Let's go live now to CNN senior reporter Daniel Dale for a fact check. All right, Daniel, what stood out to you?
There were just so many false claims, and I say that after essentially every speech, unfortunately, from President Donald Trump. But I think this is notable because of the audience. He was telling a lot of lies, saying a lot of other inaccurate things, regardless of his intentions, to the U.S.'s top military leaders. So I want you to listen to something he said about former President Joe Biden and Biden's comments about the U.S. military.
I go around bragging about that. I said, we have the strongest military anywhere in the world. I say it. You never heard Biden say that. Never heard him say anything. But you never heard him say, did you ever hear him say, we have the strongest military? He doesn't say that. I say it.
President Biden said that over and over. This took me about 5 seconds to find on Google. One sample quote from 2023. Our U.S. military, and this is not hyperbole, I've said it for the last 2 years, is the strongest military in the history of the world, not just the strongest in the world, in the history of the world. So this is just one of many such quotes from President Biden.
What happened at Quantico is more serious than most people are treating it. The president of the United States stood in front of nearly 800 generals and admirals, the most senior military leaders in the country, and said things that are simply not true. Not once, multiple times. Back to back. And the fact that the audience was military makes this different. These are people trained to work with verified information. So let's look at what was actually said. It took the fact checker 5 seconds on Google, 5 seconds to find Biden calling the U.S. military the strongest fighting force in the history of the world. Biden said it in 2023. He said it again in January 2025. In his final days in office, directly to a Defense Department audience. It is on the record, documented, searchable by anyone. Trump said this in a room full of people who could have pulled it up on their phones before he even finished the sentence. That is the first claim, and it is already false. But here is what matters more than the individual lie. This is a pattern. And the second claim in this same speech makes that even clearer. Watch what comes next.
And he made another false claim about President Biden and the military, falsely claiming at another point in the speech today that President Biden had suggested early in this term that he could get rid of the Space Force established under President Trump. Listen to that quote.
The Space Force turned out to be a very important thing. I said from the beginning, when Biden came into office, he wanted to terminate it. He said, and this thing called Space Force, so we could get rid of that. And he got hammered by the people in this room for even suggesting it, because it's very important.
President Biden never said that. President Biden never said that. That did not happen. What did happen in the first weeks of President Biden's term is that his then White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, offered what seemed to be a snarky or dismissive response to a question about what Biden planned to do about the future of Space Force. But that wasn't Biden himself. Even Psaki never said he was going to get rid of it. And she said the very next day that they were not getting rid of Space Force, that they would preserve it. So those are just two of a whole bunch of false claims from President Trump today. He also repeated his usual lie that the 2020 election involving him and Biden was rigged. Of course, he lost fair and square. He repeated this lie that he tells over and over, that the Congo and Venezuela both emptied their prisons to somehow allow prisoners to come to the United States as migrants. There was no evidence that any of that happened. President Trump's own team has never been able to offer any corroboration. And I've spoken to independent experts on both the Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Venezuela who have said they have seen nothing to support any of that. President Trump again repeated this claim we've been hearing from him that Biden let in 25 million migrants. That's up from President Trump's former claim of 21 million. Even that was false. So the actual number is less than half of that, even if you count the millions who were rapidly expelled from the country under COVID-era immigration provisions. So not even close. President Trump again said that President Biden provided $350 billion worth of aid to Ukraine. That's also not even close, even generously by independent expert estimates. The actual number is about half that. And we also heard President Trump repeat this claim he made at the United Nations the other day that he has settled 7 wars. But even the examples that President Trump cited himself show that that claim is not true. For example, he mentioned the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Well, the war involving those 2 countries has not actually been settled, despite a peace agreement signed under President Trump. Hostilities continue. We have good reporting from the ground. CNN was there last week showing that the fighting continues, and the peace agreement that was signed under Trump did not involve the rebel coalition allegedly backed by Rwanda that's doing much of the fighting. He also mentioned Kosovo and Serbia as a supposed war he has ended. Well, they have not actually been at war under President Trump. He previously claimed that he prevented a new war from erupting. There's thin evidence even for that, but the claim that he ended an actual war between those 2 entities is just not correct.
All right, Daniel Dell, always bringing the facts.
He knows what he's talking about.
He sure does. Thanks so much, Daniel.
All right, Daniel, thanks for me as well.
Let's take these one by one because each one deserves attention. Space Force first. Biden never said he wanted to get rid of it. What actually happened is that his press secretary, Jen Psaki, gave a slightly dismissive answer to a reporter's question in early 2021. She walked it back the very next day and confirmed Space Force was staying. Biden himself never said a word about terminating it. Trump took a press secretary's offhand comment, changed who said it, changed what was said, and delivered it as a personal story about Biden confronting the generals in that very room. That did not happen. Now the numbers. Trump said Biden let in 25 million migrants. The real number, even counting people quickly expelled under COVID-era rules, is less than half that. And the figure keeps growing, and Trump's telling it was 21 million before, now 25 million. Trump said Biden gave $350 billion to Ukraine. According to the U.S. government's own inspector general tracking the Ukraine response, the actual amount dispersed was around $94 billion, including money spent inside the United States and across broader Europe, not just Ukraine directly. That is less than a third of what Trump claimed. Trump said he settled 7 wars. He named Congo and Rwanda as proof. But even while a peace signing ceremony was happening in Washington, fighting between Rwanda-backed rebels and the Congolese army continued on the ground, with rebels taking a 3rd major city just days after the deal was signed. And Kosovo and Serbia, there was no active war between them to settle in the first place. Now, here is what connects all of this. Nearly 800 generals and admirals were ordered in from posts around the world to sit in that room at a cost of millions to taxpayers. And at one point, Trump told them directly, if you do not like what I am saying, you can leave the room, of course. There goes your rank and your future. That line should sit with you. The president told the country's most senior military commanders that disagreement would cost them their careers. Combine that with false claim after false claim delivered in that same room, and the picture becomes clear. This is not a president informing the military. This is one reshaping what they are allowed to question. The military serves the country, not any one person. When that line starts to blur, the consequences go far beyond politics. That affects institutions, and institutions affect all of us. Leave a comment with what you think and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this.